This is the HOVERFLY OUREA 26-inch electric bike. After spending some time with it, I thought it might be helpful to share what I've noticed so far. I've been using this bike for a mix of regular errands, a couple short commutes, and some weekend rides on rougher paths like packed dirt and uneven pavement. I'm not doing hardcore mountain biking with it, but I do hit potholes, curb cuts, small gravel sections, and the kind of cracked roads that usually make a normal bike feel annoying. That's basically what I wanted it for. Something I'd actually choose over my car for short trips without feeling worn out when I get there. Setup was pretty straightforward. Mine showed up mostly put together, and I just had to handle the usual stuff like getting the front wheel on, putting on the handlebars, pedals, and getting the seat adjusted. It took me around half an hour moving at a normal pace and double-checking everything. If you've ever assembled a bike from a box before, this felt similar. If you haven't, you can still do it, but I'd say plan for a little extra time just to make sure the brakes and shifting feel right. I did end up doing some small adjustments after my first ride, mostly to get the gears shifting cleaner. The first thing I noticed when I started riding is the weight. It's not a bike I enjoy carrying upstairs. I can lift it, but I don't want to. If you live in a walk-up apartment or you need to hang your bike on a wall rack, that's something to think about. On the road, the weight is less of a problem because the motor helps. And honestly, it also makes it feel stable. It doesn't feel twitchy. It feels planted, especially at higher speeds. Power-wise, it feels strong enough for normal, real-life hills. The motor is rated 750 watt peak, and I don't have a way to measure wattage while riding, but I can talk about what it feels like when I hit a hill that would normally make me stand up and grind on a regular bike. This one just keeps moving as long as I'm doing at least a little pedaling. On throttle only, it'll still climb, but you can feel it working harder and it drains the battery quicker. I mostly ride using pedal assist and save the throttle for getting through an intersection quickly or when I'm tired at the end of a ride. Speed feels about what I expected. It gets up to around 20 miles per hour on flat ground without drama. It's not the kind of acceleration that snaps your head back or anything. It's just a steady push. For commuting, that's basically the sweet spot for me because it still feels controllable and I don't feel like I'm fighting the bike. Range is always the question people worry about, and I did too. The battery is 374.4 watt-hour, and in my use, I'd say the claim 20 to 40 miles lines up with reality, depending on how you ride. If I'm using a lot of throttle and I'm pushing faster speeds, I'm closer to the lower end. If I'm mostly doing pedal assist and riding like a normal person, I can stretch it out. I'm also not a super lightweight rider, and I carry a bag sometimes, so I'm not testing it under perfect conditions. Charging has been easy. I just pop the battery off and bring it inside, and it takes around 5 hours to top up when it's pretty low. One thing I like is that removable battery setup for day-to-day life. I don't have an outlet where I store the bike, so being able to bring the battery inside matters. The battery also locks in place, which doesn't make it theft-proof, but it does make it less of a grab-and-walk-away situation. Comfort has been decent for what it is. It's a hardtail with front suspension only, so you still feel bumps, especially through the rear. The fork helps take the edge off cracks and small potholes. On rougher stuff, I found myself standing up a bit like I would on any basic mountain-style bike. The 26-inch tires do help smooth things out compared to skinny commuter tires, and it feels more confident rolling over rough pavement than my old hybrid bike did. Braking has been fine, but not silent. These are mechanical disc brakes, and mine were a little noisy early on. After a few rides and some harder stops, it got better, but I still get some noise now and then, especially if the rotor gets a little wet or dirty. Stopping power feels safe for city riding, but you may need to do occasional adjustments over time, which is just part of living with mechanical discs. If you're used to hydraulic brakes, this won't feel as smooth. The 7-speed gearing is useful. I actually shift more than I thought I would, mainly to keep my pedaling comfortable while the assist does its thing. It's not fancy, but it works. I've ridden cheaper e-bikes where the gearing feels like an afterthought, and you basically never shift. On this one, I do. A couple everyday details I appreciated. The included fenders actually help if the road is wet, and the little storage bag is handy for keys, a multi-tool, or a small lock accessory. The headlight is enough to be seen and to light up a basic path, but I still use a separate brighter light if I'm riding somewhere really dark. There's also a bell, and I end up using it more than I expected on mixed-use paths. Now, stuff I don't love. The display control area is pretty basic, and at night I've had moments where I'm kind of feeling for the buttons instead of clearly seeing them. It's not a deal breaker, but it's one of those things you notice after a week of riding instead of in the first 5 minutes. The other thing is maintenance reality. If you get a flat on the rear wheel, it's more annoying than a normal bike because of the hub motor and the wiring. It's doable, but it's not the kind of roadside fix I'd look forward to. Because of that, I've been more careful about tire pressure and avoiding sketchy debris. Compared to other entry-level e-bikes I've tried, this one feels more like a traditional bike in size and riding position because of the 26-inch wheels and the mountain-style frame. Some smaller-wheeled commuter e-bikes feel compact and quick to store, but they can feel a little nervous on rough roads. This one feels steadier, but you pay for that in weight and storage convenience. If you're worried about safety with charging and batteries, I'll mention this one is UL 2849 certified, and that was honestly a factor for me because I charge indoors sometimes. I still don't leave it charging unattended overnight, but I felt better about it compared to no-name batteries with no clear certification. Who do I think this bike is actually good for? If you want a practical e-bike for commuting, errands, and weekend rides on mixed surfaces, and you don't need it to be lightweight, it makes sense. It's also decent if you live somewhere with hills and you don't want to show up sweaty. If your situation involves carrying the bike often, storing it in a tight space, or you want something that feels super light and nimble without power, I'd probably look at a lighter option. Overall, I've been using it regularly, and that's usually my biggest test. If I stop reaching for it after the new toy phase, that tells me something. This one has stayed in my routine because it's easy to hop on, it handles rough streets without feeling fragile, and it takes the stress out of hills. If you've been thinking about this bike and you have questions you want me to check on mine, drop them in the comments and I'll try to help. If this video was useful, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with what kind of riding you're planning to do.